The wolf wasn't moving anymore. Wren pressed her face against the rusted bars and stared at the enormous creature lying in the mud. Its sides barely rose and fell. Its silver-gray fur was matted with dried blood, and one of its back legs was bent at a wrong angle, the kind of wrong that made Wren's stomach drop to her knees. It smelled like rot and fear in here, like something that had been suffering for a very long time. "Hey," she whispered. Nothing. The cage sat at the far edge of the Maddox property, half hidden by overgrown blackberry brambles and a rusted tin roof that had half collapsed. No one came here. That was the point. Wren had only found it because she'd been chasing her dog, Biscuit, who had run off into the woods after a squirrel and never came back. She'd spent 3 hours searching, calling, crying, and she'd found this instead. No Biscuit, just a dying wolf the size of a small horse. She looked around. The Maddox woods were quiet. Through the tree line, the distant lights of Harrow Falls flickered. The little mountain town her mother had dragged her to 6 months ago, when everything at home fell apart. They didn't belong here. Wren knew that. The kids at school made sure she knew. She looked back at the wolf. "I'm going to help you," she said. "Okay? Don't be scared." She wasn't sure which one of them she was talking to. The padlock on the cage was old and corroded, the kind that looked tough but wasn't. Wren had grown up watching her father fix engines. She knew what rust did to metal. She found a heavy stone near the tree line, lifted it with both hands, and brought it down on the lock 3 times. On the 4th, it snapped. The cage door swung open with a groan. The wolf didn't move. Wren stepped inside. The mud sucked at her sneakers. She crouched next to the animal. It was enormous up close, its head nearly as wide as her torso, and put her hand flat against its fur. Warm, still warm. "You're okay," she said softly. Wren, I'm 11. I'm not going to hurt you." One pale eye cracked open. Silver. Like moonlight caught in water. It looked at her. And something happened in Wren's chest. Not fear. Something older than fear. Something that felt like recognition, though she'd never seen this creature in her life. "Can you walk?" she asked. The wolf tried. It gathered its legs and pushed upward, and Wren saw it grit its teeth. She was sure it had human expressions. She'd tell her mother this later, and her mother would not believe her, and it made it halfway up before its injured leg gave out. It collapsed back into the mud. "Okay," Wren said. Plan B. Getting a wolf the size of a motorcycle across 3 miles of woodland at 10:30 at night was not something Wren had planned for when she left the house. She found a tarp in the abandoned barn nearby. She coaxed the wolf onto it, speaking quietly the whole time, about school, about Biscuit, about how the math teacher, Mr. Fenley, had a comb-over that made him look like a question mark. The wolf watched her with those silver eyes and did not bite her. That felt like a good sign. She pulled. It was slow. It was awful. Her arms screamed, but the wolf helped when it could, pushing with its good legs when the terrain required it, staying still when she needed to rest. As if it understood, as if it was making a choice to trust her. They reached the edge of the woods at midnight. Her mother's house sat at the end of Wickford Lane, a rental with a sagging porch and a furnace that argued with itself at 3 a.m. The lights were all off. Her mother, Dahlia, worked double shifts at the diner and came home already asleep on her feet. Wren had 2 hours before she needed to be back in bed. She got the wolf into the garage. She found the old horse blankets her mother kept in a bin, for reasons Wren had never understood, and laid them out. She brought water in a bucket. She found the last of the raw chicken in the fridge. Her mother would be upset, but her mother could be upset, and set it down in front of the animal. The wolf looked at the chicken, looked at her, ate the chicken. "Good," Wren said. "Now sleep. I'll come back in the morning." She was at the garage door when she heard something, not a growl, not a whimper, a sound that was almost, not quite, almost like a voice. She turned around. The wolf was looking at her. Its mouth had not moved, but the sound, low, fragmented, like a word broken into pieces, had come from somewhere near it. Wren stood in the doorway for a long time. "Did you just try to say something?" she asked. The wolf blinked. Once, deliberately. Wren went to bed and did not sleep at all. She ran to the garage at dawn. The blankets were empty. The wolf was gone. In its place, curled in the corner wearing the horse blankets, like a toga, his knees pulled to his chest, was a young man. He looked around 19 or 20. His hair was the same. Silver gray as the wolf's fur, cut roughly, like it had been done with a knife rather than scissors. His skin was deep brown, and across his left cheekbone ran a long scar that hadn't quite healed right. He had the kind of face that belonged in old paintings, all sharp angles and weathered dignity. His left leg was wrapped in a makeshift bandage made from the tarp. He was staring at her. Wren stared back. "You're the wolf," she said. He said nothing. "I pulled you on a tarp for 3 miles. A pause. Then, rough and barely there, like a door forced open that hadn't been used in months. "I know." Wren sat down on the cold garage floor, cross-legged, because her legs had stopped working normally. "My name is Wren." "I heard." The ghost of something moved across his face, not quite a smile. "You talked about your math teacher." His comb-over is genuinely alarming. She swallowed. "What's your name?" He looked at the floor for a moment, like the answer cost him something. "Calder," he said. Calder stayed in the garage for 5 days. Wren told her mother she was fostering a stray. This was technically true. Her mother was too exhausted to investigate. Calder healed faster than any human had a right to. On the 3rd day, his leg was functional. On the 5th day, he was moving without a limp, but he didn't leave. He sat in the garage and let Wren bring him food and talk at him, and slowly, he began to talk back. He told her almost nothing real. He would not tell her how he'd ended up in the cage, would not tell her who put him there, would not tell her how long he'd been inside it. But the rust on those bars and the way his muscles had wasted and rebuilt suggested it had been a long time, months, maybe more. What he did tell her, he was from somewhere north, far north, a place she'd never heard of. He had family he couldn't return to. He was not the only one of his kind. He said that last part carefully, like he was giving her a gift wrapped in caution. "There are more of you," Wren said. "Yes." "In this town?" His jaw tightened. "Near it. Are they looking for you?" "Some of them." He paused. "Not to help." Wren thought about the cage, about the rusted lock, about a wolf too large for any natural predator to subdue, just left there to die slowly. "Someone put you in that cage on purpose," she said. Calder looked at her for a long moment. Then he looked out the small garage window at the dark tree line. "Yes," he said quietly. "Someone from near here." No answer, which was its own answer. "You can't stay in the garage forever," she said. "I know. But you're not ready to leave." He didn't say anything for a long time. Then, "You shouldn't be involved in this." "I pulled you 3 miles on a tarp," Wren said. "I'm already involved." Something in his expression shifted. Something old and tired cracked slightly open, and underneath it she glimpsed something that might have been gratitude. Not the easy kind, but the kind that costs a person. "You're 11, he said. 11 3/4. "That doesn't make it better." "You're not my dad." She stood up, brushing garage dust off her jeans. "I'm bringing you dinner. Don't disappear." He didn't. Harrow Falls had rules that nobody wrote down. Wren had felt it from the day they arrived. The way certain families stood taller. The way certain last names opened doors. The Maddox family owned half the land in the county. The Maddox sons ran the volunteer fire department and the high school football team and the hunting club that met every Thursday in the back of the hardware store. Everyone smiled around the Maddoxes, the kind of smile that didn't reach the eyes. What Wren hadn't understood, until now, was why. "The Maddox family," Calder said when she brought it up. His voice went very still. What do you know about them? They own the land where I found you, she said. A long silence. Calder? Theron Maddox, he said. He's the alpha of this region. Alpha of the wolves, yes. Wren thought about the cage on Maddox land, the deliberate, rusted lock, the location chosen carefully, far enough from town that a dying creature's sounds would dissolve into the forest. He's the one who put you there, she said. Calder's hands tightened on his knees. Why? She pressed. Because I wouldn't submit to him. His voice was quiet, but something burned underneath it. My father was alpha of the northern pack. When he died, the territory was supposed to pass to me. Theron Maddox contested it, said my bloodline was impure, had me taken during the transition, while I was between forms, vulnerable. He stopped. I've been in that cage since early spring. Wren did the math. It was October. 7 months. She felt sick. You're an alpha, she said slowly. I was. He looked at his hands. A caged wolf isn't much of anything. You're wrong, Wren said firmly. He looked up, surprised by her tone. You survived 7 months. You're already healing. And you're here, which means you're still a problem for him. Calder stared at her. You're 11, he said again, but differently this time. 11 3/4, she said, and I think we need a plan. Wren's mother noticed on a Tuesday. Wren came home from school to find Dahlia sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of cold coffee and the particular expression she wore when she had decided not to be surprised by anything. The young man in the garage, Dahlia said. Wren stopped moving. He's been there a week, her mother continued. He eats more than any person has a right to. He heals from things that should require a hospital. She looked at Wren steadily. And last night, when I checked on you at 2 a.m, I saw something in the backyard that was very large and very silver in watching our house. Wren sat down slowly. Mom, is he dangerous? Wren thought about Calder, about the way he moved carefully around her, shrinking himself when she got close, as if conscious of his own size, about how he'd eaten the chicken from her hand, like it was the first kindness he'd been shown in a long time. Not to us, she said. Her mother was quiet for a moment. There's something wrong with this town, Dahlia said finally. Has been since we arrived. I thought it was just the small town closeness, but it's something else, something underneath. She looked at the window. The Maddox boys stopped in at the diner yesterday, asked about you, said they'd heard a girl had been spotted near the East Woods. Wren's blood went cold. What did you say? That you'd been looking for your dog. Dahlia's jaw set hard. Wren, how much danger is this boy in? Wren told her. Not all of it, but enough. When she was done, her mother sat very still for a long time. Bring him inside, she said. He's not sleeping in a garage. 3 days after Calder moved inside, Wren found the mark. She'd brought him a first aid kit to re-examine his leg, and when he rolled up his sleeve, she saw it on his inner wrist, a symbol burned into the skin, not tattooed, burned, like a brand. 2 concentric circles with something like a crown at the top. What is that? She asked. Calder looked at his wrist. His expression didn't change, but something in his eyes went very flat. The Northern Alpha mark, he said. Every alpha carries it. Did it hurt when they gave it to you? No, it comes with the bloodline. He paused. The outer circle fades if the alpha is separated from their pack for too long. Dies if the separation becomes permanent. Wren looked. The outer circle was pale, almost invisible, like a scar losing its color. How much time? She asked. I don't know. Guess. He met her eyes. Not long. She looked at the mark for another moment, then did something she hadn't planned. She put her thumb over it, covering it. Then we fix it, she said, before it fades. Calder looked at her hand on his wrist. For a moment, something wrecked, and real moved through his face. The expression of someone who'd spent so long being certain they would die in that cage, that hope felt like a foreign language. "Ren," he said. "I know," she said. "I'm 11, but I'm also the only person who knows you're alive, so you're stuck with me." That night, she heard him in the backyard. She looked out her window. He was standing in the open grass, under a full moon, silver and enormous in his wolf form, and he was completely still, just breathing. His nose lifted to the north wind. She wondered what he smelled. If the pack was out there somewhere, feeling the thinness of his mark and not knowing why. She put her hand on the glass. Hold on, she thought. We're working on it. She should have seen it coming. Ren had one friend at school, Petra Alch. Funny, loud, the kind of girl who never stopped talking and made the silence feel less heavy. They'd been close since September. Ren had told her things. Small things, she thought, safe things. She was wrong about what was safe. On a Friday afternoon, Ren came home to find two of the Maddox sons standing on her porch. Bram Maddox was 20-something, broad as a door, with the particular smile of a person who had never been told no. His younger brother, Oscar, stood behind him, looking uncomfortable in the way that people look when they know something wrong is happening, but have chosen not to be the one to stop it. Dahlia was in the doorway, blocking it. Ren stopped at the end of the path. "There she is," Bram said warmly. "Ren, right? We've heard so much about you." Petra, Ren thought. The word landed in her stomach like a stone. "My daughter doesn't know anything," Dahlia said. Her voice was calm, impressively calm. "Oh, I think she might." Bram descended the porch steps slowly. He was looking at Ren with a kind of cheerful hunger that made her skin crawl. "We heard a girl found something in our woods. Private property. Could have been dangerous," Ren said. "Nothing." "See, there's been an animal loose," Bram continued. "Came off our land. Could be rabid. We're just worried about the community." He looked at Ren with the smile still on. "You haven't seen anything unusual, have you?" He was standing 6 feet away from her. She could feel the difference in the air around him. Something charged, something that pressed against her chest the way a storm does before it breaks. She thought about Calder. She thought about 7 months in a cage. She thought about the mark going pale on his wrist, the outer circle disappearing like smoke. "No," Ren said. Bram looked at her for a long moment. The smile didn't move, but something behind his eyes did. "You're a bad liar," he said pleasantly. "I practice," she said. "I'm getting better." He left. But he turned back once at the end of the path and looked at the house with a specific kind of attention, the kind that meant, "I'll be back, and I'll be less polite." Ren went inside and locked every door. "He knows Calder is here," Dahlia said. "Or suspects." Ren was already going to the back room. Calder, we have to move." He didn't run. Ren had expected him to run. Part of her had been counting on it, that he'd turn wolf, slip into the forest, and disappear north where the Maddoxes couldn't follow, where she wouldn't have to watch what came next. But Calder stood in the back room in the dark and said, "No, they're coming. I know." His voice was very quiet. "I've been running for 7 months, Ren. Before that, hiding. Before that, pretending to be smaller than I am." He looked at his hands. The mark is still there. Faded, but there. That means the pack is still holding. They're waiting. He looked up. "If I run again, I'm not an alpha anymore. I'm just a wolf who ran." "You could die." "Yes. That's not a good argument for staying." "It's not an argument," he said. "It's a choice." Ren wanted to yell at him, wanted to shake him. She was 11 years old, and she had dragged this infuriating silver-haired idiot across 3 miles of woodland and hid him in her garage and fed him her mother's chicken, and she was not going to watch him get himself killed out of principle. She stopped, because she could hear them now, not Bram, not Oscar, not 2 boys walking up a porch, many footsteps, from the woods behind the house, and a sound like the forest itself was sighing, low, layered, the sound of large animals moving through undergrowth, the whole pack. Theron Maddox had come. The back door burst open. Theron Maddox was not what Wren expected. She'd imagined someone large, brutish, obvious in his cruelty, but Theron was lean and gray-templed and wore the permanent expression of someone who'd decided, long ago, that the world owed him. He stepped through the door like he owned it. Behind him, Bram, Oscar, 4 others, and behind Theron, being held by the wrist, face pale and guilty, Petra. Wren looked at her. Petra couldn't look back. "There he is," Theron said. His voice was smooth, almost gentle. He looked at Calder the way a person looks at an old, tired argument they're tired of having. "You've caused a lot of trouble, Calder Vane." "I've been locked in a cage," Calder said. "I didn't have much energy for trouble." "You should have died in that cage." No heat in Theron's voice, just fact. "The northern bloodline ends with you. There's nothing left to contest." "You're wrong about that." Something shifted, just slightly, a movement across Theron's face. Surprise quickly covered. "The northern pack didn't scatter," Calder said. "They've been waiting, holding the territory. 70 wolves they're on. They felt my mark go thin and they didn't dissolve. They held." "You're bluffing." "I'm an alpha talking to a man who had to put me in a cage to win." Calder's voice was very still. "Does that sound like a man who needs to bluff?" Theron moved. Fast. Inhuman fast. And Wren saw the shift ripple through him before it completed, the moment where a man becomes something else. "Stop." Her own voice. She hadn't planned it. She stepped between them. The whole room went silent. Theron stopped, half-shifted, and looked at her with yellow eyes. She was a child. A small, ordinary, human child. She had absolutely no power here. She spoke anyway. "You locked him in a cage for 7 months," she said. Her voice shook but didn't break. "On your own land. You starved him. You broke his leg and left him to die slowly in the mud." She looked around the room, at Bram, at Oscar, at the others, and you all knew. Every one of you knew. Nobody moved. He didn't fight you. He couldn't. You had everything and he had nothing. She turned back to Theron. "And you still lost. Because a little girl found him." Theron stared at her. "Move," he said. "No," she said. What happened next was not something Wren could fully explain afterward. Calder put his hand on her shoulder gently and stepped around her. And then he changed. Not the violent, desperate shift of a trapped animal. Something else. Something enormous and controlled and deliberate and old. The silver wolf that stood in her kitchen was twice the size of the creature she'd found in the cage. It filled the room. Its eyes were lit from within like winter stars, and it lifted its head and howled. Not in the house, outside, through the trees every direction, from the north, from the east, from the far hills. The answer came. 70 voices, the northern pack, answering their alpha. Theron went white. What followed was not a fight. It was a reckoning. The Maddox wolves faced a choice. Stand behind a man who'd won his territory through imprisonment and abandonment, or step aside. One by one, Oscar first, they stepped back. Bram lasted the longest, jaw set, refusing to meet his father's eyes. Then he stepped back too. Theron Maddox stood alone, and Calder, back in his human form, blood on his lip from where he'd caught a blow before the pack arrived, walked toward him. "Yield," Calder said, and Theron, for the first time in 30 years, looked small. "Yield," he said, quietly, bitterly, like the word cost him everything. Calder stepped back. It was over. They left in the morning. The northern pack was gathering north of the county line. Wren had seen them the night before, huge silver shapes moving through the tree line, orderly and patient, waiting for their alpha. There were things Calder had to do now, a territory to reclaim, a pack to reunite, a legacy to rebuild from the soil up. Wren understood this. She was 11 3/4, not 5, but she stood on the porch in the early October frost, and watched him walk toward the tree line, and something in her chest did a thing she hadn't expected. He stopped at the edge of the yard, turned. "Wren, you should go," she said. Her voice was steady. She was very proud of that. He walked back. He crouched down so they were eye level, which nobody did. Most adults talked at her, down at her, like she was furniture or a footnote. Calder looked at her directly, as he always had, as if she was exactly the size she needed to be. "I need to say something," he said. "You don't owe me anything." "Listen," he said it gently. "I had decided in that cage that I was going to die there. I had made peace with it. 7 months is a long time to make peace with something." His voice was careful, but something in it was breaking open in a clean, honest way. "You didn't just free me. You reminded me that choosing to live was still an option." He paused. "That's not a small thing. That's the largest thing anyone has ever given me." Wren looked at him. The frost was on the grass between them. Somewhere in the north woods, the pack was waiting. "The mark," she said. "The outer circle." He held up his wrist. The mark was vivid now. Both circles bright, the crown at the top sharp and clear. The healthiest it had been, probably, in years. "There it is," she said softly. And that was when she cried. Not from sadness, not entirely. From the specific overwhelm of something being repaired that you'd watched break, of a thing going from ruin to whole in the space of weeks, and knowing you'd been part of it, and that it was real, and that it was enough. She didn't try to stop it. Crying wasn't weakness. She'd learned that from a man who'd survived 7 months in a cage and still chose to stand instead of run. Calder waited. He didn't tell her to stop, didn't look away. Just let her have it. When she was done, she wiped her face with her sleeve. "You're going to be a good alpha," she said. "I had a good teacher," he said. She almost laughed. "I'm 11. "You're brave," he said simply. "Age is just arithmetic." He stood. She watched him walk back to the tree line. He shifted as he walked, a fluid, unhurried thing, and by the time he reached the trees, he was silver and enormous and impossibly dignified, and he paused once at the edge of the forest. He looked back at her. She raised her hand. The wolf turned north and was gone. They left in the morning. The northern pack gathered north of the county line, vast silver shapes moving in disciplined silence beneath the frost-heavy trees. Calder stood at the edge of Wickford Lane, already half belonging to the forest. Wren stood on the porch. She had known he would go. She had known it the way you know winter is coming. Inevitable, necessary. He turned before crossing the tree line. "Wren." "You should go," she said steady. She was proud of that steadiness. He walked back. This time, when he crouched to her height, something in his expression was different. Not only gratitude, not only respect, recognition. "I need to tell you something," he said quietly. "You already said thank you." "This isn't that." He reached for his wrist. The alpha mark burned bright, both circles whole, the crown sharp and alive. "When an alpha's life is saved," he said, "when his mark is restored from the brink of death, it binds, not as debt, not as ownership, but as recognition." Wren frowned slightly. "Recognition of what?" He hesitated. For the first time since she'd met him, he looked uncertain. "Of the one who brought him back." The air felt different suddenly, thinner. "What does that mean?" she asked. "It means," he said carefully, "that the bond does not fade, no matter the years, no matter the distance." She didn't fully understand. Not yet. She was 11. But something in her chest reacted the same way it had the first time those silver eyes opened in the cage. Not fear. Something older. Somewhere deep in the woods, a low answering howl rolled through the trees. A reminder. Calder stood. "When you are grown," he said, voice steady but threaded with something she would only recognize much later. "And if you ever choose to come north, you will not arrive as a stranger." Her breath caught. "You'll remember me?" she asked. A flicker of something almost like disbelief crossed his face. I have 7 months of darkness that I survived because of you, he said. I could forget the moon before I forgot you. That did it. That was when her eyes burned. She blinked hard. You're going to be a good alpha. His expression softened in a way that felt dangerously close to something deeper. I will be, he said, because you reminded me how to be human first. He stepped back, shifted. The silver wolf stood tall in the frost, stronger than she had ever seen him. But before turning north, he lowered his head, not in submission, in promise. She raised her hand. The wolf vanished into the trees. That night, long after the forest went quiet, Ren lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Somewhere far north, beneath a different sky, an alpha stood at the edge of his territory, and for the first time since reclaiming it, his mark pulsed. Once, steady, alive. Not from danger, from distance. And though neither of them had the language for it yet, the bond had already begun counting the years.